Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and call the meeting to order. And first on the agenda, we have approval of the minutes from the last meeting. Are there any revisions?
I have some.
Okay, go ahead, Betty.
Okay, the first paragraph, sixth line. The process will hopefully improve the future.
Betty,
Betty.
Can you hear me?
yeah, but what page are you talking about?
Oh, sorry. The first paragraph, road tree removals.
Right of way tree removal.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
Okay.
It says hopefully the process will hopefully improve the future, in the future. It should say in the future.
Improve in the future, okay.
Okay.
And the very next line, it says, Garen noted, I watched on YouTube, and that is a beauty. I was going to say the beauty of videotaping these sessions.
Okay.
Okay.
Anything else?
Yes. On the bottom, there's a blackberry. Jillian is talking about blackberries, and I'm trying to find where it is.
Is that under annual projects and planning? There's a mention of blackberries in there.
Yeah, it repeated, it said, if we can, twice, and I'm trying to find that paragraph right now, but
It's at the end.
It's under annual projects and planning, the last sentence. Sorensen noted if we can, if we can't. Or
Right.
delete
Right.
one.
that's it.
Okay, thank you, Betty. Anybody else? Okay, so I would entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to accept
I
the
move
minutes
that we-
as amended.
Okay, Stacy made the motion. Second.
I second it.
Okay, any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, great. Thank you. Was there anyone that signed up for public comment?
There was not today.
Okay, and do we have any audience members? Looks like that Jan's number. Okay. Okay. So Kirk, after being gone, you've got a lot of catching up for us.
Okay, I was gone. I didn't do anything.
Yeah, but hopefully everybody else did.
So, yeah, so this report is like, I guess, from pretty much April 19th through today. So we have installed 2 new memorial plaques at the bandstand. That program seems to be working. The flower baskets came down, which is in September. The windscreens were down, have been taken down from the tennis courts. The Clatter Bridge, which is a component of the main park playground, it's the bridge that kids cross, has to be replaced, and that is on order. Meanwhile, it's not completely unsafe. We have it taped off and signed. They keep using it. It's one of 8 cables is shot, but anyway, the new one's coming. I have from management, I have a list of replacement trees, mostly in the right of way, not all of them. And we've started to plant trees as replacement trees for what's been cut down in the last several months. I planted 7 of them yesterday, and I'm giving the information to Kelsey so she can forward that on to, I guess, Planning Commission. Talk about public art for a second. The orange bench at the Midtown restroom, as you'll notice, is gone. It's in Portland getting refinished, new powder coat, new orange. It was starting to look kind of shabby. We're waiting on a bid to clear seal the wave in front of the downtown restrooms. management is researching how to recast or redo the Fisherman's Dance sculptures, which is at the bottom of Sunset, in hopefully in colored or stained concrete. There's a few options out there, and we're trying to, before it's too late, I'd like to redo those. And Trevor's contacted Acola Lewis, who will finish the 6th and last of the glass etchings on the bus stops. The bus stop at Yukon does not have one, and those etchings, as you know, are transposed from the mural at the old school. And Acola did 5 of them, and now she lives in Alaska, but she's going to be back and says she'll do the 6th one. The Purple Martin Birdhouse has been taken down and cleaned and put away for the season. This year, it took those volunteers, Jan and her crew, 2 hours to clean them. Every apartment or compartment, I guess, there's 14 units for those birds. They were all used. I counted a maximum. At one time, I counted 23 Purple Martins. Anyway, the guy who donated that, his name's Schwabe, and it's a pretty good possibility that between Schwabe and ECAP, the Acola Creek Awareness Project, they'd like to donate another Purple Martin house, which would go in a similar location nearby. And that's may or may not happen. We hope it does. That would be before next season. They go up about in April. So, and also I saw a few photographs that Schwabe took that hopefully we'll get, he'll donate some prints here to City Hall so we can frame them and put them up with the other picture from last year. So
Okay.
that's kind of a fun program. The men's Wednesday soccer league finished another successful season last month. And of course, the bandstand use for the season is done and the power's turned off. And the bandstand had more use than it's ever had before in a 5-month summer season. And I think that's about it for right now.
I've got something. I got notified yesterday that some of the tennis court lights are out. So I'm working with Cannon Beach Electric to get those re-electrified. So just be aware, it's in process.
So anybody have any questions for Kirk?
Kurt, or Trevor, I think you mentioned in a prior meeting that you had a total number of trees ready for the replanting season that Kirk mentioned, the 7 that you planted. What's the total replant?
I think right now, well, I can tell you in a second, 7. I got 8, 9, 10, 11, 13 on my list, and I got 7 down. 2 of them are going to wait until a stump gets ground and a driveway gets put in, and another one we're going to wait until the house has been completed on Kenai. But I think it's roughly 13, and 14 because I did one earlier in August up on the Laurel that the mayor requested. So I think the total is pretty much 14 right now.
Okay.
And I've got more waiting, for people to finish their homes. The guy over on 6th Street and Larch, I believe, the 8 residents.
Yeah.
We're gonna plant back there once that road's developed. We're gonna plant back in the 15-foot right away that we'll still have existing at that point. So
Yeah, 14 is my outstanding list, but it's going to keep on.
Right.
We got a little system now, which we didn't really have before. Well, Trevor will keep an accurate report based upon the arborist report, and then he'll feed that to me, and we'll do what the arborist recommends, which is, that's what kind of we're
it's a
at.
timing thing. There's sometimes where we can't plant back right then and there if it's the middle of August.
It's nice to plant at this time of year because rain season's coming, so.
Well, I mean,
Somebody to put their driveway in or finish their landscaping, so it all looks right. I don't want to go back in and move stuff at a later date.
so there's a conversation that's been going on about all these trees that have been cut down, and I don't remember the number, but it's well over 100 that I've seen. Would we expect to be able to replace the bulk of that? I mean, is that
On private property, I don't dabble in private property.
In other words,
so that number includes private property as well as public? Okay.
someone builds a house on a vacant lot and there's 16 trees on it and
Okay.
14 of them come out. The they may be required to put one or two back in or something, but because we're a city and there's growth, there's private lots, so.
Yeah, okay. No, again, it's just an issue that I've heard
Right.
in my own house for a little bit.
I've got some
And I
nuggets.
just wanted to ask.
Keep in my back pocket that I haven't removed trees, but they're nuggets for someday when we can go back to
This,
having the kids come out.
yeah, this next year,
Plantings. And I've
we'll go back to tree
got a
planting.
few nuggets that I'm saving for that.
Yeah,
So
no, Barb,
I see. I was waiting for people to finish.
She's making me wait.
Bruce, would you like to
Thank
say?
you. Les, the number was roughly 80% on private and 20% on, I think it was like 82 private, 19 in the right of way.
thank you. Okay.
I'm gonna be doing an aggressive trimming on Tyee, the right of way from on Tyee Street that goes to the highway. We got some trees in there that need to be raised, so I'm gonna be doing Joe Bursch is gonna be doing some trimming for me throughout town, just to kind of clean things up and make it look better.
Good. So anything else from anyone?
No, oh, sorry, I thought you said my name, but no, I'm good.
So since Jan's on the phone, I'd like to thank her for the Purple Martin, her and her cohorts for the Purple Martin houses and thank you, Kurt.
Beware, if we're gonna do another Purple Martin house, I'd love to do it in the same location in the wastewater plant because that's behind security. I don't want a Purple Martin house where anyone can grab the pulley and pull it down and damage the house. So I'd like to keep it in the same general location. Just remember that when we.
My feeling is that the Purple Martin House is a sewer lagoon loop trail improvement.
Mhm.
It's part of the ongoing effort to maintain and improve the loop trail whenever we can. And there's a bird viewing platform and they like open space and water. So within 20 or 50 feet of the other one is probably where it's going to wind up.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. Okay, thank you. So next on the agenda, we have right-of-way tree removals, and I don't believe there was anything in our packets regarding that, so we can go right by that. Next on the agenda is community grants, and I want to remind everyone that we have a work session next Thursday at 10 a.m. By Zoom or in person. And so make sure that before that meeting that you really spend some time looking at the application, thinking about some of the things that didn't go as smoothly as we would like. I think we need to really look at what kind of financial information we're asking from the groups and make sure it's really what we want, if we really need all the history, especially for the people that have applied for many years. And again, that meeting will be next Thursday at 10 a.m. So any questions on any of that? Okay, great, thanks. And then next we have the Heritage Trees Program. And last month we had a draft of an application. And then this month, hopefully we have the criteria that Betty and Les worked on. And then we'll see if Bob had any progress with the ordinance. So Betty and Les, either one of you like to present?
Betty, would you start? Because I think you submitted something that I think is in the packet.
It is.
Right. So Les found this wonderful research paper on heritage tree programs around the world. And it was out of University of Hawaii. And we can, the information we have here is what we pulled together and narrowed down to what we could use. And each like historical value or cultural value, it goes in depth into some of the issues you will have if you choose this value and how some people combine the values and also one of the criteria that a lot of people use is age. And this report warned that age can be very expensive to ascertain. So they were recommending different ways that you could do that without having to spend a lot of money deciding how old the trees were. So I thought everybody could read it over and then we could decide how we want to go forward on what we decide are our criteria.
Yeah, I guess I should add, there were actually 16 different criteria that this report had come up with. And so this list, I think, Betty, is kind of the one that made sense to us. I mean, it's a abbreviated version, but it is exactly word for word what the report discussion was. I think we found it very helpful to read through it and think about it in our context. So I guess to a degree, these, I think it's 5 characteristics, are the ones that Betty and I thought most pertinent to what we would like to see.
Okay,
So there is more information, and that full report's available if anybody wants it, if you haven't already got it.
so anything else you would like to add, or did anybody have any questions? Okay, and then Bob, do you have any progress on the ordinance?
Bob, I think you're muted.
Okay, you should be able to hear me now. I didn't check my email to see whether Kelsey forwarded the draft that I sent her late yesterday. Do people have that?
No.
They do not have it, Bob. Just a reminder from a staff perspective, your guys' packets go out a week before the meeting. Helping out with this committee is a great part of my job, but it's a very small part of my job. And so yesterday was just absolutely an insane day. And my email inbox is overflowing from stuff I didn't get to. And then also from the perspective of you guys as a committee, stuff sent out a day ahead of time doesn't give you guys a lot of time to read it in your busy lives. So just a friendly reminder from me that as much as possible, stick to that week ahead of the meeting deadline to get stuff so that I have time to send it out and you guys have time to read it.
Okay, apologies. I will. There's probably, other than reading it to you, there's probably not a way to get this to you at the moment. What I did was to put together a draft ordinance that we could pick apart and say, no, we need more here, or that's not what we want to do, or things like that. It's relatively bare bones, about 4 paragraphs plus a draft application form. I think one of the things that I've come to value is keeping a lot of things out of the ordinances and putting them into the city forms and paperwork. I can probably read the draft ordinance part in about a minute. Shall I do that, or what would you like me to do?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. Draft heritage tree ordinance, 17.70 point something heritage trees. Purpose. Trees are important to Cannon Beach, and the city has established a tree board under 8.20.020 as a part of the Parks and Community Services Committee to recommend specific trees within Cannon Beach to the City Council for recognition as heritage trees because of their size, age, historical significance, or other salient characteristics. Process. Any Cannon Beach resident or organization may nominate a tree on either private or public property for heritage tree listing by submitting a nomination. And we would insert a link to the city website where you could get that form to the tree board. The tree board shall either approve the nomination and submit it to the city council or return it with reasons for rejection or request for further information or justification. If the city council approves the nomination, the tree shall be added to the official list of Cannon Beach heritage trees on the city website. And I have a question there. Do we want to say the listing must be noted on the deed if the tree is on private property? It's not clear how that's done and enforced, but clearly some places do have that requirement. So if we want to do that, we would probably want to say something in there about how that would be done. If the tree is on private property, the property owner can have it delisted by applying to the tree committee, which shall direct the community development director or the IT person or somebody to remove the tree from the list. The owner of private property on which a heritage tree stands, or the public works director, if the tree is on city property or right of way, may request that the public works department place an appropriate plaque on or near the tree at the owner's expense. And I put a note to adapt the commemorative plaque application form for that purpose. So this is, as a starting point for discussion, this is not setting it up that it's making things significantly harder for somebody to remove a heritage tree than our rules are at the moment. We may well want to add something in that to that effect, and saying how difficult and so forth. It's very vague about the criteria. If we want to add something in, I think probably there will be interest in going into more detail, especially in light of the material recommended from Hawaii. I would say what I had here for the application form is not as long as the ordinance wording, but it's sort of saying who all has to sign off and what information you have to give and so forth.
Okay, thank you, Bob. Any comments? Trevor?
So during this process is I think the city arborist should be involved at some point.
Right.
To determine if the tree's in good health, does it need some work done to it before it becomes a heritage tree? You guys gonna have some kind of a limit, like 2 a year, 3 a year? You know, those types of things.
Yeah, from a budget standpoint.
Yeah, because if we get bombarded with 30 requests, it's gonna blow my budget.
Right.
So think about that stuff.
With a limit.
That's a good point.
Mhm.
I wanted to say that I thought that I like what Bob has given us, but it brought up a lot of questions that had occurred to me that really need to be committee discussion. And it has to do with, now that you've got a heritage tree, what does it mean?
Right.
You know, we've had questions about, at least Betty and I, about once it's a heritage tree, does that provide some kind of a protection, which most programs did? Does that survive in perpetuity, even if the property transfers ownership? You know, Bob's comments about that a owner could have a tree delisted was almost opposite what I think Betty and I were thinking. So I think Bob brought us really good points, but I think that as a committee, there needs to be some opportunity to discuss some of that stuff. You know, what kind of program do we want to have? Anyway, that's just my 2 cents. I think working the way Betty and I tried to do it, and it feels like it's going to take years to get this down unless we want to set up another special meeting, which I'm not really pushing for either, but I am a little concerned that we're not going to be able to make much progress on all these little tasks that we.
Because we're all working.
Because we really can only work an hour a month.
Right,
And I'm a firm believer with these programs, start off small,
right.
start off small.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I've had a discussion with our, Jeff Gearhart about this, and he's like, let's pick 1 or 2 a year.
Mhm.
And go after it and figure out the process and then add on to the program.
So maybe this meeting, what we should discuss and kind of tentatively decide on is how do we want to start? Do we want to go with a limit of, I mean, and I agree, it's important to start small and constantly evaluate a new program. So what are you guys feeling about limits?
Definitely.
Because I've got one in my mind that's a guarantee. It's the short pine over there by the cell phone towers. It's the biggest short
Oh.
pine that exists that I've heard.
Mhm.
And Jeff Gearhart's even brought that up. He's like, that should be the number one, the first one we should go after.
Hmm.
In the past years, we've done extensive cabling in the top of it to preserve it. If you guys haven't seen it, check it out. It's a real nice one.
Yeah.
But that's, it's a short pine, it's a special species here, but it's the biggest one. So that, in my opinion, that qualifies it as a heritage tree. So we could use that as a benchmark, to start at least.
and is it on public property?
It's half and half.
Of course.
Took out a guy's chimney and put a hole in his roof a few years
Yeah.
back. That's why we did
But
some
we
work.
cabled it. If you look up in the canopy, it's cabled to handle the weight of the branches on the short pine.
So how, if it's on half public and half private, that gets really complicated, doesn't it?
It always gets complicated when you go down that
Right,
rabbit hole.
yeah.
So the form, the application form that you and Stacy provided was consistent with what Barb or Betty and I had read, that you really couldn't even consider a tree and that was on private property or half on private property without having a signed off.
Right.
And I think that's important.
Yeah.
That way, so that I'm trying to think through the process that we talked about. So I think if we've got a kind of, at least in my head, a process that allows us to not go too far down a path on a particular tree without making sure we have everybody's approval.
Right.
Right. And so I think we're in good shape for that piece of it. I'm trying to remember that anybody basically can recommend a tree, fill out an application. It goes to this committee.
Right. That's what we were,
Yeah, and then, so this committee would be the one that would probably think about the total number of trees we're willing to accept in a year, right? Because once it leaves us, it goes by the city arborist for his inspection. And that's where the cost comes in and things that we're trying to manage. And then it goes to another committee or this tree board for final approval.
or the tree board.
And so who does it go to before it goes to the city arborist?
I
Right,
think
it goes first to the tree board. The application is submitted to the tree board.
So.
Which is-
Tree board,
Committee.
It's you.
That's us.
well, that's what I'm trying to, because at some point I thought that the group that Jan was.
Friends of the Trees.
Friends of the Trees was going to be one of the two.
Well, that's something we have to decide.
Right, but I mean, it's kind of, so I'm kind of wondering if we don't need to map out the process. We've talked about it. I'm confused. And if we could identify the specific pieces that are important so that we could do what Trevor's suggesting, just get something started and let the program develop
Right.
as we work through it.
Well, but I think before we just, open it up, I think we have to establish some preliminary limits or we are going to be,
Right.
yeah,
I'm not arguing.
yeah. So can we agree on a number of trees that we want to have our inaugural heritage tree program?
I heard two.
And I was thinking,
I think Can I speak?
Yes,
I think maybe you want to get the public aware of this. So wouldn't the Friends of the Trees be the people that maybe nominate to you public trees or encourage their friends and neighbors to have those people nominate their private trees? And you could have a limit on how many you accept in a year, but you don't want to limit,
Applications?
you don't want to limit the number of applications per year because it takes the wind out of the sails of the program. Like if there's a big press release and we're going to have accept 2 nominations this year,
oh, no, I didn't mean that. I meant
how many are
we
you going to
would-
deal with?
How many we would
Accept.
award.
Yeah, no, and that's what I thought, but I agree completely, Kirk. We don't want to limit applications.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
At least initially, because you might, I think it's probably going to be maybe a little bit of a group of applications the first year.
Right.
If people get excited about it, and then it might, just kind of level off, or doesn't mean you want to send Jeff out to 23s in
No.
1 year, but
Right.
the application period already is going to be X amount of months. I mean, I don't know, I'm just, yeah. Okay, I just misunderstood about,
Well,
you want to get the public to be a little bit interested in this, otherwise what's the point?
Right. So the work that Stacy and I did on the application, I think it was either Portland or Lake Oswego. They accept applications two times a year. And then they make the awards. And so what we're discussing right now is how many we would like to start with awarding in a year.
And whether we would look at the applications once a year or twice a year.
Twice a year.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are the things I think would be important for us to decide today. Betty, do you have any input? And you're muted. If, there you go.
Oh, there I am. I do. I just feel, I agree with Trevor. I think we should start small because we don't really know what we're going to be getting into. So I would recommend maybe 2 for the first year or 1, 3, not more, because anyway, I think starting small sounds like a good idea.
So you're saying award 2 the first year? Okay.
Yeah.
Does anybody have any opposition to that?
Say 1.
You want to go 1? Do I hear a?
so let me ask a different question,
Okay,
but it's kind of part of it.
Okay.
So we heard about this largest shore pine that Trevor's aware of in the whole area. That's cool. Is there another tree that would be a really good one to raise public awareness of the program? And I don't have it. Trevor,
Up at the springs, the main spring, we have those giant cedars up there.
oh,
those are nice.
That's something I consider a heritage tree.
Trevor,
Except that they're not in Cannon Beach.
Right.
and we also kind of want to
Yes,
reserve, the reserve.
yeah,
Bruce?
we are looking at water security,
Mhm.
and we don't want a lot of people to know where the springs are or to go up to the springs to see a tree.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, public
Fair enough.
accessibility was one
I'd
of the
keep it in
things
city limits.
that you
Yeah.
mentioned.
Yes,
Anyway, does that make sense, though, Barb? I would simply, if 2 is the right number, and I don't see it being more than that,
Right.
it should be 2 that would be good for promoting the program.
And in an area that we want people
Well, yeah.
access.
And I think the city limits is a reasonable place to start.
I mean, there's
2, but
a couple of huge spruce trees at Les Shirley and a huge spruce tree in the main park. And I mean,
Mhm.
Jeff could tell you which one of those, if you wanted to just make it simple with 2 private tree and a public tree, or half private tree and a public tree. I mean, Jeff could recommend which one of those
Right.
3 would be the oldest or the biggest or the
Right.
best. I can't.
Yeah.
They're all huge monsters.
Yeah, I mean, certainly if you wanted to have any sort of, as Kirk mentioned, public awareness, you wanted to do some sort of celebratory kickoff. Hey, we're designating our first heritage tree, come help us cut a ribbon or whatever, having it in a public park would be an easy place to have a gathering and still keep people spaced out and whatnot.
Right.
You're not just standing on a street looking at someone's private tree in the front of their yard.
Yeah.
Another interesting issue is one of the criteria you talked about, I think, was rarity or uniqueness or something.
Mhm.
Yes.
Does that come into like, so I'm just throwing this out there. It can make a non-native species really, really important. And is that, or should we be thinking about heritage trees that are kind of native to the area?
I think so.
There's a really big, beautiful magnolia at Madison Park. I think it's probably the only magnolia in the city, and it has great flowers for 3 days in the spring till the wind comes. Anyway, are you looking at, I guess, non-native species? Is that worth talking about or not? I don't know.
Well, I'll at least speak up. When Betty and I discussed it, our understanding was it was native species. We weren't really trying to recognize things that would not have been here. What came to my mind was maples. I didn't realize that maple trees actually existed up in this area until I saw some on a hike through the Fort Stevens area. Now, and maybe I'm even wrong, but I mean, I don't see any maple trees around here, but.
Vine maples are native.
Well, vine maples, but I
That's
mean.
way different than what you're talking about.
Yeah, you're right. I wasn't talking about vine maples. So this was this big, huge maple tree out in the middle of the forest. It was pretty cool. I don't know if that's really native or not. I'm not.
It's hard to say. Jeff could speak to that.
Yeah.
Our words could speak to that.
Yeah. Anyway, but no, I think that we felt like we wanted to focus on trees that were here to begin with.
No.
Right.
Cedars, although we don't want to do the ones by the springs, a really beautiful cedar would be a great addition, if there is one.
Okay, so I think we're in agreement that for the first year, we want to limit it to 2 trees. Two native trees. Everybody in agreement with that? And then in terms of the applications, we'll accept those twice a year. Everybody okay with that?
Yeah.
Okay. And then I was going to suggest that if we have time next week in our community grant work session, keeping in mind, we want to keep that to an hour also, that we could add that to the agenda if everybody's okay, if time permitting, that we talk about the heritage tree program. So, but community grants would be the priority at that meeting. But if everybody comes prepared with their wonderful suggestions, we might be able to squeeze in some time for heritage trees. Okay, everybody okay with that?
That sounds good. Kelsey, could you send that draft ordinance
Yes.
out along with the packet for next week's work session?
Sounds good, Bob.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Kelsey.
And if I didn't before, I apologize for getting that to you so late. I will keep trying to be more successful of not being at the last minute.
Yeah, I think the entire committee needs to be reminded of that. So thanks. Especially how we're kind of breaking up into groups. So a week ahead of time, try to get stuff in.
It's my apology too.
I think we can all say we're sorry. We can only do better, remember? There's no limit to better.
Just trying to make sure that help me help you.
Right, yeah. Okay, so next on the agenda is the Coastal Watershed Council update. And I just wanted to remind everyone that we are part of the Coastal Watershed Council. We used to call it the ECOLA Watershed Council. And they meet on the odd third Monday. Did I get that right?
Yes.
Odd month.
Third Monday of odd numbered months, except that in January, it's the fourth Monday because it can't be on Martin Luther King
Yeah.
Day.
And obviously, recently, we've been meeting by Zoom, and the meetings start at 5, and it's just, it's a good, we always like to have at least one park committee member on it, and Bob is the secretary, so of that council, so that has worked out pretty good. But again, just would like to remind everyone that those meetings are available and good stuff is talked about.
What was the time again of those?
5 o'clock, yeah.
And those meetings are now obviously by Zoom, and they're being recorded. The recordings aren't available right away, and I will look into whether they are publicly available. And if not, I have access to them eventually in order to improve the minutes. But if somebody wants to listen to them in other than real time, that's available.
Okay, thanks, Bob.
We need to get our hands on those. Is that a subset of your group?
No,
Okay,
not officially.
all right, no worries.
No,
I just think there's a lot of things that we're working on, that they're working on also, but it's not a city committee.
yeah, no, I agree.
Yep.
I mean, there is a common thread though,
Exactly.
and that's why I think it's important. I've been dialing in and I find them very helpful. The conversation around, beaver restoration and what's the right thing and the wrong thing. Obviously, there's a lot of people that are involved in that discussion, but that is the group that seems to be the most on the ground
Right.
as far as the beaver.
Yeah.
And so,
And they have the time to do the research.
yeah, no.
Yeah.
And
I
yeah,
mean, they're not volunteers, the ones that are the directors.
To butt in again, it is largely volunteer, but we do have an executive director who is paid and who is our new one, is seeming to be very active and on the ball. Also, it is a state mandated organization that every watershed has to have a watershed council.
Right.
Not sure how active a lot of the other ones are, but it does have a government grounding in that sense.
Yes, thanks, Bob. Okay, so next on the agenda, we have the Ecola Creek Forest Reserve update. And in our packets, we have some communication about blackberries. And Les, would you like to discuss that?
this, so I think the blackberry piece that I owed Kelsey the apology for. So we talked about blackberries and the possibility of the group wanting to go up into the reserve as a committee at some point and looking at it. That made me think that I should share a very abbreviated little walk up where I took some pictures and made some notes. I sent that, and then Karen Labont responded with some very good background information concerning previous ways blackberries had been managed, and responded to some of the comments, and they were simply my comments. So I don't want them to be taken out of context. They weren't even recommendations. They were simply, that's how I do it. But generally, all I really wanted, I think Karen's ad is important because she had a longer history of how the ECFR has been managed. But I thought it was good information, and I wanted it shared with the committee. And that's really all that I have to say. It did open my eyes to and I didn't even get to see very much of the road at all in that one day when I went up, but blackberries are a different thing than what I thought it was. And I think maybe when we want to get started on our blackberry management topic, we may want to talk as a committee about what we really wanted to try to what would a win look like for us? I think there are blackberries that will never be removed if that's going to be the goal, but maybe they can be managed in different ways.
So the area that I kind of showed Betty, the little area by the cash station up there, I am gonna be removing the down timber in there. Easier access for you guys. The knotweed has been sprayed, but I'm just allowing the knotweed to totally die off before I go in there and start disturbing the ground. But we're gonna go in there and pick out all those, the timber that's rotting down in there, just so you guys can have a clean slate to work with.
Okay. And thank you for bringing that up, because I didn't mention it, but yeah, Trevor has recommended a site right off of the road, good access. And I did took some pictures of that area, and they're attached as well. Although the quality of the photos didn't come across very well, at least not in the one I'm looking at. If somebody wants to see the real photos, I'd be happy to share those.
No, I think they give a good concept of what.
But again, it was simply a starting point for a conversation. There are no recommendations particularly in here for me anyway.
Okay,
That site was picked just because it's so easy to access.
Right.
I mean, it's
Yeah.
it's right there.
so what's your timeline on removing the timber?
I'd say within the next 2 to 3 weeks to get it yanked out of there.
Because I'm thinking after that, the timber's removed, that would be a good time for us to do a site visit.
I think that's great. That would be a good time.
Hopefully by the next parks meeting, I should have it done and we can discuss maybe a time where I can meet you guys up there.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay, it's on McEwen's list. It's just where they're in town right now. Trying to take care of some issues we're dealing with in town, but he's aware of it.
Good.
One of the, one of the
Yes.
things that, when I went up with Trevor to see the site that he's picked out, which is a great, easy access site, one of the things he mentioned, which I was really, which really was exciting, was once he was mentioning that if we can get the blackberries under control, it would be a great place to plant a lot of cedar trees. And I thought, wow, that would, and to shade out the blackberry, because blackberries don't like shade, but it just made me really excited to think about cedar trees as we walk into the EFCR, all those new cedar trees coming up. So it's exciting getting rid of the blackberries. We will have a potential to grow a lot more trees. So that's exciting.
Okay, thanks, Betty. Okay, so let's plan on a site visit after you let us know that it's ready. Anything else on the reserve? Any, Bruce, is there any update with, pay attention now. Is there any update on OWEB?
Yes. Before the end of October, that was the tentative schedule. Barry will be walking the ECFR with OWEB. It's just Barry and OWEB.
Okay,
And Barry will get back with us on what the discussion was about.
and then will you share that with us?
Sure.
Okay, good, right.
Did you say the end of this month?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
So any day. Yeah,
Yeah.
good. Okay, great, thanks. Anything else on the reserve? It's nice to have it open again.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That should have been part of my report. Reserve's open again.
Thanks, Kurt. Okay.
We're now up to speed.
Yeah.
The new telemetry is being installed on the bridge there, just past the treatment plant there.
Okay,
State, I purchased the sensor for him, and she's gonna be installing it so we can collect data on the levels of the Coli Creek again.
oh, good, great, thank you. So lots of good things happening there, that's good. Okay, on the annual projects and planning. Jelaine just wanted us to make sure that we're, keeping in mind that we, we have the wheel of the project planning, and anybody have any comments or anything about that? I mean, I think throughout the meeting, we're talking about our different projects.
So are you thinking primarily about tying it to the city's budget cycle. Is that
Right.
really what we
Yeah.
need to keep in mind? Is
So, I mean, everything we do impacts
right.
budget.
And that deadline is really kind of a January-ish timeframe, or maybe February.
Yeah, I think January is the time we really need to,
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think that's good to be reminded, because I never think about that.
right? Okay, anything else on that? Okay, so we'll move right along to a new project that we have, the playground equipment discussion. And we're just, I want to caution you all that we're just starting this study. And we have some beautiful pictures in our packet.
Thank you, Les.
Thank you, Les.
So you're more than welcome. As you can tell, I can overload you with data any day you want it.
Talk about,
Decisions cost more, but
yeah, right.
opinions are free. So I was very interested in Bruce's request at the last meeting about, just, I think he's just looking for input. But I actually have got an interest in accessibility and actually inclusivity, which is a different thing, and I think even more important. And so I was happy to get started. The email that Kelsey, again, I apologize, Kelsey, shared with you was, I took a couple of snapshots of the current park down, the playground down at City Park, because I wasn't, although I've seen it a million times, I didn't have a lot of details, and I thought that no one else might either. And then actually, thanks to my wife, I attached a number of other pictures that she took of a pretty well-known, fully everything that I think you can do type facility that exists in our hometown in Texas. And I only shared it with the committee as something that you might look at and might give us some ideas. And so that's pretty much what it is. It's kind of like that other thing that I did. It's just trying to share some information broadly with the committee that I thought might be helpful. So that's my 2 cents there.
Yeah, thank you. It was,
And it's quite a few acres, isn't it, that park?
Well, this particular one it's just been moved to a new area from a place within the city where it has been for about 15 or 20 years. And yeah, I think it's now occupies, I don't have the exact number, but it's over an acre. Yeah, it's quite a large spot.
and what's the population of this area?
Of Midland is the community, is Midland and Odessa, really. They're kind of grown together, and it's about 200,000.
Okay. So obviously we can scale this back quite a bit for our area, but it does give us some good ideas of.
Yeah, and again, I don't know how you would do, what you want to do. Again, this is a unique area where it's a fairly small community, but in the high season, there's probably as many people available to play on a playground as there would be in a much larger community.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I do like the fact that we need to start addressing accessibility and inclusivity.
There are I found quite a few guidelines and how-tos on the internet with a quick search. They're readily available. The thing that I found that I didn't mention was, it looked to me like for our city park, the first thing that we need to do is make it wheelchair accessible, which appears to be getting rid of the soft surface and potentially some kind of ramp.
I wish I was at last month's meeting. There was a ramp into all three of our playgrounds. It's called a access wedge. So there's two types of protective surface for playgrounds that IPMA. IPMA is the International Play Equipment Manufacturers Association, and in conjunction with the American Society for Testing Materials and the Consumer Product Safety Commission, recommend two types of surfaces that are wheelchair accessible. One is rubber mats over a hard surface. The other one is engineered wood fiber, which is what we have.
Okay,
We had 2 years ago, we had a citywide ADA audit. The ADA auditor went throughout the city with a report observing what's going on and making recommendations. He had no issue with any of our playgrounds. So our surface is ADA accessible. And if you could switch it out to rubber mats, but that would be, in this climate, that would be pretty
sure.
expensive. You have to figure out a pretty extensive drain system. And the rubber mats are probably more maintenance than the chips in that you have to replace them when they wear out instead of just adding new chips.
Right.
That's the beginning of my 18 cents.
Perfect.
So,
The auditor was really impressed with our parks, actually. He was impressed with our picnic benches, having a hard surface to our picnic benches. So he was impressed with what we got going on.
Okay.
Our existing downtown playground, first of all, unless you want to sacrifice the baseball field or especially the soccer field, can't be any bigger.
Right.
The ADA features in the existing downtown playground, not besides the accessible surface, is, like I mentioned, the access wedge, and there's a reach panel, a storefront panel, the ring pull, and the transfer module up the stairs has a wheelchair transfer deck for the stairs.
Okay.
So there's 5 elements. Of course, this was built in 2006, and I know things have changed. There's some tweaks you can make. The posts, of course, are all in big slugs of concrete. You can probably figure out how to adapt or change some of the components to add more ADA features. At the time it was built, the idea was kids can get in there, they can have some experience on their own, but with parental or guardian help, they could access quite a few of the features. Not to the extent of it, Midland, Texas, but
Right.
Yeah.
But I guess I'm trying to, in our playground, even though pieces get replaced periodically, it's got a lot of life left in it.
Right.
You're looking at, I can't put a figure on it, but hundreds of thousands.
Right.
And again, I'm not sure how things have changed since I took this program and what kind of components. They're always inventing new components, but
Right.
there's one that's where actually a wheelchair can fit on a merry-go-round. You can put 2 of them on there and it's which is pretty cool, but they take up a lot of room. So my problem is the size of our playground. It's really going to be hard to make it any bigger.
Right.
Right now, it looks like there's a lot of space around there, but when you build it with the, again, to IPEMA standards, every square inch of that is, except for right where the 2 benches are, is part of the playground in that it provides fall space. The higher you swing, the more fall space you're required to have. That's why the swings are so much by themselves, because when you fly off there, you have to have 12 feet. A short swing, you have to have 6 feet. There's all kinds of little suggestions and guidances. Nothing is legal, so you can do whatever you want. But these are all recommendations by these organizations.
Well, that's very good information.
that is good.
Yeah.
And I left a message for Mike Passo, but didn't hear back, so I sent him an email. I'm waiting for that response, but I did a little bit of research on just different parks in general, and the inclusive parks are different. I mean, if they call it an inclusive park, it is different than another park. And one company stood out called Landscape Structures. They do inclusive equipment. And there is a rep in Portland that we could contact if we chose to go this route.
That's who our new bridge is coming from. All 3 of our playgrounds were built by Landscape Structures.
Oh, cool. Like it's a wonderful
We
company.
built them all, but they were bought by Landscape Structures when our original research 14 years ago was that was the best company.
It seems like it.
All the companies are evolving, and we know the rep, his name's Lee Franson. Kevin's been in contact with him. they deal with Ross Recreation. It's
Yeah, that's who the other name that I was.
right, so, and they're at our Rolodex, and so we communicate with them. So it'll be almost interesting to ask this guy, send us what's available that fits on our existing posts.
Right.
Yeah,
So you don't have to pull anything out.
Right.
Like you, so there's 2 kid swings and 6 big swings, 4 big swings. Could one of these and one of these be, they have swings that are with more of a seatbelt thing in the back, so you can put a guy in there. And so one of those could be, and same with Tolavana, you could change a swing itself, a swing seat itself. Stuff like that, maybe. I mean, I'm not trying to dissuade a huge undertaking, but I just think maybe we could make everybody happy with what we have.
and less cost than replacing.
Yeah.
Well, to replace the whole thing, you'd have McEwen or Troy in there, and you'd spend 2 days and you'd throw everything away and you dig down for 4
No, I don't think
feet.
that's the approach.
Dig down 3 feet and start over. That's what you do. And-
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that's not what Bruce asked us to,
Right.
to come back and talk about, was to take everything up.
Take it slow.
Yeah, I had a feeling I knew that one, so I wanted to get it out first.
The other playground, we own a playground at Tolavana Wayside, which is not our land, but it's our playground.
Okay.
It's our playground. So to expand that, there's room there to expand at the expense of some picnic areas, but that's a state parks call.
Okay,
I mean, I think we're lucky to be able to use what we have. Of course, the playground, the little playground at the RV park is owned by the city, and
Right.
so is RV park, and it's public, of course. People don't know about it. It's small. I don't think you probably want to sacrifice RV sites to make it bigger. You could extend it down to the east where the old horseshoe pits were, maybe.
Mhm.
But again, we have 3 playgrounds that are all, we built them all and they're all maintained and owned by us.
So Kirk, I actually hadn't even thought about the other equipment. I only knew about City Park. Are all of them consistent like you had described? They've all got the same kind of soft surface?
They all have the same
All have
surface. They all have a wedge. And I think they both have the wheelchair transition deck on stairs. They don't have as many options. They're both smaller, so they don't have as many components. So I don't think there's any reach panel or storefront panels or kids can go in there and roll around and they can do something with help, but they have fewer elements than they're progressively smaller. Downtown is twice as big as Tolavana Wayside, which is twice as big as the RV parks.
Thank you.
So that's all very good information.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had no idea.
And again, we have restraints with budget and space. And we're just starting the discussion. And
I'm
you
really
wrote,
excited that Stacy says that Landscape Structures is the
Yeah.
best company.
yeah, I mean,
That's by far my opinion for the last 15 years, so.
because their name just kept coming up
They used to
over
send
and
me the
over
hard
and over.
catalog, which I love, and they don't do it. You have to go online or order one or something, but maybe Travis should pursue a catalog to have here, and we could all put our heads together.
well, I think it's available. We need.
Online, you can do
Yeah.
it.
One question, as I was doing the research, it looks like there are quite a few grants available too, if you're going to be changing the equipment or for inclusivity. So I didn't know if that would be.
Oh, that's good to know.
Look at.
That would be
Grants
awesome.
available.
The downtown playground, 14 years ago, wait a second, 16 years ago, that's how old it is, cost just under 40,000.
Oh,
I think it's probably gone up.
I
yeah,
think it's probably going to consider.
Yeah.
get it.
Yeah.
And that was just the components, that wasn't, because sometimes these companies will send a crew and build it for you,
Right.
but we did it all in-house.
Yeah. Okay, so we will be continuing that discussion and thanks for your research and for your historical knowledge. And you probably should plan your vacations around.
I just saw this on the agenda yesterday. It was like, oh, I better.
Yeah, good.
And also, you know what, when I was gonna ask Les, when I look at the sort of photographs from Midland, the swings, they have a rubber mat surface, but under the swings, it looks like it's concrete, but
Yeah.
that can't be.
I thought so too.
That can't be the case. Is it just different?
No,
Different colored mat?
actually, I think that is actually sand.
Oh, really?
Sand.
I think so.
So
Can't be concrete, I would think.
Oh, I can't imagine.
No, again, it's a totally different environment.
you can see the swings that they have in that with the blue, how they would be.
Right.
Our old playground, when I came to work here, was sand. And sand is really frowned upon, especially in this climate, because it's hard as a rock. and
Right.
It's hard to rake and fluff up.
Mhm. Yeah.
So we replaced the sand right off the bat when we built the new playground.
That's a good question, though. And I didn't, like I said, my wife went and took the pictures. I didn't,
I don't know if they
I
were
think I may ask now that you've brought it up, but
inclusive playground or ADA playground, because these swings are all ADA looks like type of swings. I wonder if they make an exception and they think, well, no one's because of seatbelts or whatever, no one falls off. So, but the idea of that being concrete just blows my mind.
No, I can't imagine
It's the worst thing you can ever do in building a playground.
so that's a better picture than the one I glanced at. It's clearly not sand. It's something. I'll find out.
Well, it could be just different colored rubber mat too.
And it could
Oh,
be,
that's true. Yeah.
yeah, it could be that, but I'll find out because that's a good question.
They used to build playground surfaces for a little while back in the 70s. They thought that ground up tires was the
Right.
cat's meow for a surface.
Right.
That's totally been, is gone now.
Well, that's good because my mother lives across from a public elementary school that had the black ground.
Yeah,
And she's still trying to get that crap out of the carpet.
yeah.
That you brought in.
They're out. It's,
Oh, wasn't me.
Okay.
okay.
Okay, so we will continue those discussions and again, thanks for the historical information. Okay, anybody have anything for good of the order?
Just thanks. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah. I wanted to remind everyone that the Tree City USA application time is here. It's due December 15th.
We got a
So,
postcard in the mail.
yeah, so Kelsey is a seasoned veteran
I don't
on
know why I'm saying
the
that,
application,
but
so,
At least it's not my first rodeo. with
right,
one.
yeah. So we'll keep you informed on the progress of that, the application. Bruce?
Just wanted you all to know that at 10:21 today,
Oh, that's right.
Shakeout.
we are going to have a pretend earthquake.
Mhm.
And we will all be, from the staff standpoint, we will go to the Bible church. That's this area's location.
Mhm.
We're carrying umbrellas that say follow me.
Mhm.
And from there, we'll be going over to the public works yard. Kind of
Good.
preparation.
Okay. Yep. Anything else?
So if you're still here, you gotta come with us.
Meeting adjourned.
Thanks, everyone.
And I thought that would be.
You're gonna need those umbrellas.
Yeah, it may rain on us out there.